What up, my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork here with the Disco Dork for our reaction, our review of The Mandalorian, Chapter 3, The Sin. So I guess we pick up where Mando, that's what they call him. Mando. From the last episode, going back to meet up with Werner Herzog's character, which I don't know his name. I gotta learn these characters' names. I don't know Carl Weathers' name and all these other characters, so that's my bad on my part. But so now we pick up with him coming out of hyperspeed and coming back to the planet, which I don't know the name of.
Do it really matter though at the end of the day?
It really doesn't. And I like I said, like in our first review, is I like the fact that they kind of just drop us into this without letting us know the names of planets, the names of aliens, and all this different things. And so I like that. I like that idea of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's returning the asset to Werner Herzog's character, and you can almost kind of tell that there's a little bit of confliction, even though you don't see his face. But I like the beginning of the episode with you set up the ball, like the ball to the handle in his ship.
Oh yeah.
With the Baby Yoda. You know Baby Yoda? I know Baby Yoda. But he's coming to play with it, and he tells him to put it down. And I like how we get a callback on the last shot of this episode as well, which we'll get to that. But the setup, like where we leave our characters at the beginning of this episode, like where we're headed to. What did you think about all the setup going into this episode?
Well, I mean, I like that, you know, each episode basically is a direct continuation of the previous episode. So I feel like, you know, with the structure of how they're not putting it all out there for you to binge it, I feel like if you were to watch it straight through, you'd have a story that just flows. And so it's a logical extension of the previous episode. But I like that. This is my favorite. I'm gonna just put it out there right now. This is my favorite episode so far of the series because it has a bunch of action, especially like in the back half of it. But like it has a lot of characterization for the Mandalorian in setting up his decision to go against protocol or the rules. And you get to see, like you said, it sets up that confliction and him working through that. And this particular episode, he's going to end up making a decision that I feel like is ultimately going to put him on a particular path that is going to have huge ramifications. Like by the end of at the very least by the end of the first series. I mean, first season. But I don't know. I like that because he has the mask on. We kind of talked about it before. Because he has the mask on, you don't get to see like facial expressions to get any type of emotional characterization. So he has to do it through actions. You know, we have to get into his mindset through like physical actions because you can't do it through emoting or expressiveness with the face. So even with that gesture that we were talking about, the physical action of, you know, him taking the ball away from Baby Yoda. Hey, he says it's not a toy. Right. So with those words and him in that immediate action of taking that away from him, you get a sternness, almost like a coldness. It's not a toy. You know, there's no type of he's not trying to figure out like, okay, you can't have that, but let me find something else for you to play with. It's just it's not a toy, and he puts it back on there. So just with that action, you set up you know, one end of the spectrum, and by the end of the episode, like you say, when it comes to that callback, we see an opposite reaction. So that coupled with, you know, there's a moment later on in the episode where it's that moment, you know, all right, you know, you got to make a choice, and the physical action of what that choice is. You know, it just goes a long way to show his character, you know, going through protocol. Because in this episode, and in previous episodes, you talked about the mythology of the Mandalorians. And in this episode, when he goes to cash his bag in,
that's what I wanted to go to.
You know, they talk about the remnants of the Mandalorians and the traditions and them having to stick together and stuff like that. So the fact that there's that. There's talk about when he goes back to Werner Herzog to hand over the package. He asks, "What are you going to do with it?" And Werner Herzog says, that's a surprising question from someone of your, of your stature, of your legend, of your, I was always under the impression that you just do a job, you don't ask any questions. Yeah. So even with that action of him asking that question, you see a change in him going against protocol, him breaking tradition, all for the sake of this child. So I like this setup at the beginning of the episode of him, a change in him.
Yeah, and I mean, and one scene that I really enjoyed was that scene with the other Mandalorians when he's going to forge his reward into the newer armor.
The glow up.
Yeah, the glow up. I like the scene when the other Mandalorians come in and they're kind of being a little bit antagonistic towards him and whatnot, and it's causing it's almost kind of setting up that you're going to have this friction where the Mandalorian really is going to be, if he makes the decision to save Baby Yoda, that he's going to be out on his own. Like he's going to be against the other bounty hunters, and he possibly could be going against his other his people, his race.
Yeah.
But we see that's not the case when we get to the end of the episode. But I like having that scene also when the blacksmith, I guess you want to call her, when she's forging his new shield, we get what we saw in that first episode with the flashbacks, and I think that plays into a lot of his decision as well, as far as like what he's going to end up deciding to do. And I think all these are different characterizations that's informing us a little bit more about the history of who this guy is. And so I liked all that scene, all that stuff with the other Mandalorians and the flashbacks and everything dealing with his history.
Because the first time you see that flashback, it plays as, oh man, he lost his parents tragically in a war. The second time you see the flashback, the theme of the flashback is the not abandonment of a child, but a child who is left alone, who's ultimately without his parents. And so, like you were saying, like that being a direct correlation to Baby Yoda, him actually turning over Baby Yoda to Werner Herzog, to those people, kind of reminded him of his parents having to abandon him, and them ultimately dying, having him then be an orphan. So like it does in that way show characterization. So it lends itself to that moment when he does make that decision.
Yeah, and then I mean, we talked about Deborah Chow, who directed this episode, which I thought she did a phenomenal job with this. But getting into some of the action, because once he makes that decision in his ship to go back and reclaim or get Baby Yoda back, we get some pretty stellar action scenes. That starts out in, I guess, the compound where Baby Yoda is being held, and he's got to kind of maneuver his way, almost kind of like a video game to a degree, where he has to maneuver his way and kill some of these stormtroopers in some Mortal Kombat style, using some different weaponry and some of his arsenal that he has with his armor that I thought was pretty cool. But even just the way that those scenes were shot and staged, and the way they're able to build up the tension and knowing the stakes with Baby Yoda and getting, and this can't be by accident. I'm saying this by design, having it feel like hard boiled. I thought it was pretty. I mean. Anybody who's a John Woo fan or anybody who knows knows his genre, that's a direct kind of homage to that. It has to be. So shout out to Deborah Chow, because I know you're a hard boiled fan, so shout out to that. But what did you think about all that stuff, especially that first action sequence when he's going to rescue Baby Yoda?
I thought it was cool. It also not only John Woo, but going even further back cinematically. You can draw a parallel to the Lone Wolf and Cub. There are sequences in that where Ogami Ito is he's not pushing Daigoro in the cart, but he has him in his arm while he's like slashing motherfuckers in half. And so, but the first thing I thought of, you were right, like when I saw that, was hard boiled. But just the way that sequence is shot, like you say, like the staging was well done. You not only get good action sequences, but you expand on the Mandalorian's capabilities. So it's not like you're just hearing about, you know, people's reverence for him and hearing about like we get to see why, not just him specifically, but why the Mandalorians themselves, like as a group of as a clan of bounty hunters, like what sets them apart and what makes them the Navy SEALs of bounty hunters, right? As opposed like comparing Navy SEALs to like regular soldiers, like they're the elite.
Yeah.
And so you see that. I joked when we were watching it that motherfucker is like almost like Batman. He's got, like you said, he's got like the grappling hook.
Yeah.
He's got like the flamethrower. He's got the whisk. My only gripe. It's not really a huge gripe. My only kind of gripe or disappointment with the episode is he uses a portion of his reward to craft the whistling birds, these little small
bird. That's what it's called.
mini little homing missiles. And I wish they didn't pay it off in this episode. Like I wish he could have held on to that, because it kind of seems like watching it, you kind of know like, all right, well, he's going to take the baby. He's probably going to be surrounded by people.
Yeah.
So it seemed like really convenient that he just so happened to get that thing today. I mean, at that time. But I would have liked for like later, like in another episode, like once he meets up with Gina Carano, or like in the end, like when you kind of forget about it and you're like, oh my goodness, like what's going to happen? Like the stakes are high. Like he's surrounded, and then they use it and you go, oh shit.
But would they have would people remember that? Like say you set it up in this episode and say you pay it off in like episode 6 or 7.
I will, because at the end of the day, like it's not like it's like a 14 episode series, right?
I would have forgot about it, because I didn't even think about it like when he did it here until you mentioned. I was like, oh yeah, the whistling bird or whatever it's called. But no, I think it would have been cool. It's still a cool gadget. It made me think about. I said he's kind of like Batman. He's got all the gadgets, but also like he's kind of like Iron Man too, because Iron Man had those mini homing missiles. Shout out to Jon Favreau. That would have been. That reminds me of like Breaking Bad, where they would set up things in one season and pay them off in like season 5 or something like that. Yeah. But this has just been episodes later, so they could have done that. But
like I said, it's a small gripe, but at the end of the day, like it didn't take away my enjoyment.
Yeah.
So because once he makes the decision to go back and get Baby Yoda, from that point on, like it's just all action.
Oh yeah.
Right. So he gets out of the compound and he makes his way out into like the main street.
Yeah.
Where he's confronted by Carl Weathers.
Yeah, because they put out another beacon, I guess, for.
So I commented that was like John Wick. So every bounty hunter's pager went off at the same time, and they're all looking like, all right, it's time to go get him. So what did you think about that? Like when they had that standoff, that showdown in the street?
I love it. Like I said, going back to like the end of episode 1 when we had IG-11, it feels like a Western. You know what I'm saying? That. I mean, just the way that it's set up, it's like a Western town when all the bounty hunters surround him, and then you have Apollo, for lack of knowing his name, Carl Weathers standing there. So it's almost like this Mexican standoff. It plays like a Western. I like all of those tropes and those themes, and those little visual cues that they put in there.
What did you think about how that sequence was shot and staged?
I loved it. I mean, again, you could see that Deborah Chow is really pulling from all these different things that she loves, whether you say like it's Lone Wolf and Cub or Hard Boiled or Westerns, like old Westerns, whether it's like Sergio Leone movies. Like you could see all of the love of all these old movies being played out, not just in the whole episode, but just specifically in this third act of this episode. Yeah. I thought it was awesome, man. And then like when he makes the decision, because you joked, he was like, what do you think you're gonna do? I was like, shit, I don't fucking know. And then he blasted one dude and then gets into the back of the little wagon, and the droid takes off, and I thought all that shit. And then he's got to shoot the people up top, and all that stuff I thought was like really, really cool and inventive.
So then that sequence gets to like a crescendo.
And,
and they're pinned down, and he's over top of the baby. Like, I'm sorry, little dude. Like. You was worried, like what you think?
I was, man, because like I said, because Baby Yoda, man, is so cute, and like I said, I worry. I'm getting to that point now where I worry about, even though I kind of know, we don't know. We'll see by the end of the season. Yeah. But but I kind of knew he'll be okay. But those fucking eyes, man, like.
So what was your reaction to what happens next?
Now I thought it was cool because again, well, what happens with the Mandalorians, the other Mandalorians come up to save him when he's kind of pinned down. And it almost reminds me of like that shot from Iron Man 3 with all the suits. All the suits come up.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was so cool. But yeah, man, like I wasn't expecting that because again, earlier in the episode, they established this friction between Mando and like his other counterparts, his other Mandalorians. But they also established the fact that they are connected and they do protect each other because
they're all
that
they got at that point.
they're all that they got, regardless of where they stand, like idealistically or anything like that. So like this is the way. I love that line because that shows like, okay, this is who we are. We got your back regardless. And in that moment when you see all of those Mandalorians come over the entrance, I just thought it was like it looked cool as hell.
Yeah.
And like you say, you had the one with like the little mini gun.
Yeah, that was the one that had the argument with him.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought all that was awesome, man. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
And to put a button on it with him saying this is the way with the guy who's like, look, we got your back. He was like, we'll hold him off. Like, get the baby out of here.
Mando remarked like, well, because you all did this, we're gonna have to relocate. You're gonna have to relocate the base.
You can't stay there no more.
And he was like, well, that's what we got to do. This is the way.
Oh, so good. So good, man.
So even within that action sequence, still furthering character and development story.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
I loved it, man. I loved it. So yeah, so then they take off, and again, like I remarked in the beginning, when the toy, the handle, he gives that back, and we get the Mandalorian flying alongside his ship,
the rocket pack. I got to get me one of those.
So I thought that was cool too. So yeah, man.
Hopefully, there's a call back to that. Hopefully later on he gets his backpack.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. Like there's so much in this show, man, that I think I got a good feeling they're gonna pay it off.
I hope so.
In a good way.
Yeah.
But this was a strong episode. You're right. I think it is the best out of the three. They're just getting better, man.
Yeah.
They're really getting better. So I like that they don't really give us previews of the next episode.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what to expect.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I don't know, man. Like I'm digging this show. I can see why Star Wars fans have been clamoring for something different, and this feels like something different than what we're getting in the movies.
I wonder if the Mandalorian is gonna set a precedent with having not necessarily truncated episodes, but lean episodes.
Yeah, because
they go like there's no fat on these episodes. There
really isn't.
To me, in my opinion, there haven't been any scenes that could be excised for the sake of narrative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, even the smaller and the smaller scenes or the more character based scenes where some people may feel like it feels like filler, but all that stuff is informing everything. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that we're seeing, and like we talk about with Game of Thrones, those are sometimes the best part of those episodes.
Yeah.
Like with this episode, as much as I love like that third act, I love the scene with the blacksmith and his other Mandalorians down in that kind of dungeon cave where he has that interaction with his other Mandalorians. He has the flashback. He has like the blacksmith talking to him about their race and their people and who they are.
That scene is so pivotal because it makes that segment at the end,
exactly,
it makes that meaningful.
Exactly. So like, though you're right. So it's like everything feels necessary. There isn't anything that just feels like filler.
Yeah.
Like everything feels necessary within the context of the story that they're telling, which goes to like the runtime that I hear a lot of people have, I don't want to say complain about, but they do mention it a lot. And for me, I'm on the other side of the argument. I think you're the same way. It's like I don't need hour-long episodes because of that reason.
Yeah.
Like, tell the story that you want to tell in the episode length that you need to tell for this particular episode. And if that's 30 minutes, if it's 45, 38, 33, it don't matter. Like, I mean, we're still getting great content and great storytelling.
Yeah. I think that just it's a testament to how well received what we're getting in the runtime is.
Yeah.
People are like, man, I just want more of it.
Exactly.
Right, but you gotta think like is more necessarily better. Like if there's something that you want to say in this particular episode, if you can say it in 35 minutes, 37 minutes, then do that. Don't pad it out to like an hour. You know, especially when you have episodes still to come that can convey and finish the rest of the story. So shout out to, again, like I'm wondering if, based on the success of The Mandalorian and how it's received when it's all said and done, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, when the season's over with, people might be like, holy shit, like in hindsight, in retrospect, that was great.
Yeah.
Everything that needed to be said was said. And so I wonder if other shows are going to take cue from that and start.
I hope so.
And start just telling the story in the amount of time that it needs to be told, not adhering to the rule of it's got to be an hour or whatever. Yeah,
and I think you could definitely tell. I mean, I think Disney Plus as a whole is going to get to that point with the other Star Wars shows, whether it's the Cassian Andor show.
I wonder if the Marvel shows are going to do that
that's
too.
That's what I was about to bring up, because they're shooting Falcon and Winter Soldier right now.
Yeah.
So, and I know those are supposed to be like 6 episodes total, but again, if it serves the story to tell a particular episode within like 33 to 38 minutes, then do that. I don't think you have to like adhere to an hour, because you know HBO always have like these hour-long shows, or whatever the case is. Like, I think now because of streaming, you don't have to adhere to these certain
because there's no breaks in between for commercials and having to fit into a time slot
exactly
anymore, so.
You know, so you don't have to do that. So it gives you that freedom to just tell your stories in the way that you want to tell them, and I appreciate that. And it allows them to take out that filler. Like, it lets them be a little bit more creative. Like, okay, we don't have to just like pull this out to be 45 minutes so it can make an hour on like ABC or network television. Let's just tell our story the way we want to tell it. So I'll be interested to see how Marvel does those shows as well, which I'm looking forward to. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing that for the Marvel shows as well. But Deborah Chow, she's directing all episodes of Obi-Wan series that will be on Disney Plus.
Damn, she got promoted like a motherfucker.
Yeah, man. So watching this episode, she directed that. So if you love this, then you should get excited for the Obi-Wan series. I'm already excited for the Obi-Wan series. Ewan McGregor coming back. So yeah, man, those are our thoughts for episode 3, chapter 3. That episodes, these are chapters. Chapter 3, The Sin. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure you check out our podcast on Apple, anywhere you can find podcasts. Go to the website, inthemouthofdorkness.com. Go ahead and follow us. I'm at the Turtle Dork. He's at the Disco Dork, at Sidewalk Siren, at Mouth Dork, at WB Dash. Check out all our other shows, CBCC Podcast. I said that right? CBCC? Comic Book Couples Counseling. I always get that confused. Bill and Claire's Excellent Adventures. This guy has a show coming out. I'm working on some stuff. We're going to have Unfiltered. It's all coming, man. Just stay tuned. It takes some time. Like I said before, we're going to get this video component in with the podcast as well. So we're working on some big things. But until then, check out everything else that we have. And until next time, we out.